This is my husband, Don. We've been married over 13 years. Statistics show that over 50% of today's marriages end in divorce. Through the Family and Marriage Coalition, we'll discuss steps for dating and married couples that you can take to ultimately strengthen your marriage. Up next on Education Matters. Welcome inside of Education Matters. My name is Donna Moore Westby, your host of Education Matters, where we're connecting you to the world of education one step at a time. Today's topic I'm very excited about, and it is called Saving Marriages Saves Communities. I do believe that today, so make sure you stay tuned in to the entire broadcast today. We certainly want to thank the sponsors of Education Matters. We could not bring you quality programming every week without their assistance. And they are Westby's Products and Services, creator of Dawn's Seasoning Delight, all-purpose seasoning and marinade. James, where is my chalkboard? We got to show them our sponsors. All right, Westby's Products and Services, creator of Dawn's Seasoning Delight. There we go. All-purpose seasoning and marinade. Make sure when you're buying those turkeys that you go ahead and buy that Dawn's Delight. There's nothing like a baked or deep-fried turkey seasoned with Dawn's Seasoning Delight. Also want to thank Magnolia Medical Center, Dr. Margot Muniz. Also, Allstate, yes, a brand new sponsor to Education Matters, Takia Bryant Insurance Agency. Thank you for coming aboard the Education Matters train. Also, the Martial Arts Academy, under the direction of Mr. Andrew Blocker. And then the Will Lou Gray Opportunity School out of West Columbia. And finally, the Barner Group, Educational Associates. Thanks to all of you for supporting Education Matters. All right, just a couple of reminders for you. Free tutoring deadline is nearing. Now, we've been sharing this information with you for the past several weeks. If your child needs free after-school tutoring through supplemental educational services that is provided, those are federal dollars that most of your school districts will have. The deadline to apply is November the 11th. Now, for more information to see if your child qualifies for free supplemental educational services, please contact your child's school. All right? And then our final reminder for today, daylight saving time ends. Yes, daylight saving time will end on Sunday, November the 6th. Now, don't you forget to set those clocks back 1 hour before going to bed on Saturday night. Now, if you don't, you'll be at church before everybody else does. You'll be on time for sure. But make sure you change that clock. Now, a little tip to help you remember what to do when the time changes: fall back, spring forward. All right? Those are our reminders for this week. Now it's time to move into our Education Matters tip of the week. Every week we do provide you with a new tip, and here is this week's tip. It's a good time to go back and read through the Code of Student Conduct booklet that you and your child signed at the beginning of the year. Now sit down together and discuss these rules. Now, we are seeing an increase in undesirable behaviors, and it warrants the need to get reacquainted with these rules. Parents, you must remember, you and your child will be held accountable for knowing what's in these Code of Conduct booklets. And we are seeing an increases in violations on buses, bringing weapons or things that could be viewed as weapons in school. These kinds of things. So make sure you read back through that Code of Conduct booklet, all right? Our goal here is to keep your children in school, but we must have rules in place in order to help us to maintain the safety and security of our students as well as our teachers. All right? Okay. You know what that sound means by now? It is Word of the Week time inside of Education Matters. Want to let you know that on last week, I think I incorrectly gave you the definition of galvanized, and there was an error with my computer not saving the last changes I made. So if you will go to my website, edmat.com, I have corrected that error. The definition of galvanized, which was last week's Word of the Week, all right? But this week's Word of the Week is laden. Laden, and it's on the screen for you. And it is spelled Laden. Laden. And it is an adjective. And it means weighed down with a load, or heavy, oppressed, or burden. And I'll use laden in a sentence for you. Depressed and laden with sorrow, spouses of those who were killed on 9/11 recount the awful tragedy on a daily basis. I'll read that sentence again. Depressed and laden with sorrow, spouses of those who were killed on 9/11 recount the awful tragedy on a daily basis. That is this week's Word of the Week. Make sure you use that Word of the Week so that we may all learn and grow together. Okay? Very good. Well, today is a very special day, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my day already. And that is because my guest here in the studio with me is Mr. Roger Rollins. Mr. Roger, as I like to call him, is the executive director of the Family and Marriage Coalition of Aiken. And this is a fascinating organization. And earlier today, he was my guest on the radio broadcast, and I will say, Mr. Roger, it was a very stimulating broadcast. Would you agree?
I agree. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you, and it was a good show.
Yeah, it really was. And what made it so good, in my opinion, is that we ended up having several callers that really demonstrated that we made a connection with people, and that this is obviously a topic we need to spend more time on, which is saving marriages saves communities. Let's go ahead and make sure that we're on a level playing field. And what we're going to do today is we had some viewers who are watching us right now who also listened earlier today. So basically this is a continuation of this morning's program, part 2 as I like to call it. And we're going to bring you some very special treats a little bit later on in the broadcast. But Mr. Roger, please let's go ahead and explain what is marriage and why do we even have marriage?
What is marriage?
As God says it, okay?
It's a man and a woman coming together in the sight of God. As it says in Genesis, the two become one, and they have children. And I guess there are 2 reasons for marriage: 1, to enjoy each other, and 2, to have children. Mm-hmm. So it's the foundation for society. As you've said, if we can save the marriages, we can save the communities. And that's really why I got involved in the Family and Marriage Coalition, because mm-hmm. as I looked around and saw the problems that we have in society today, you know, the kids that are having so many difficulties in school, and all of the marriages that are breaking up, if you go back to the very foundation, mm-hmm. the root cause of these problems, it is families that just aren't functioning well together as God's designed them. And so our goal is to help them get started off on the right foot, and then once they're married, to provide them with resources they need to continue mm-hmm. that marriage.
Well, if God ordained marriage, and there are all types of scriptures in the Bible that reference that covenant of coming together in terms of marriage and a role of the husband and the wife, why do we have over 50% of marriages breaking up? I mean, surely for those people who are believers in Christ, or believers in God, and understand that whole union or coming together is what He has condoned, why are so many breaking up?
Well, let's get back to the root cause. As I said, to me, the root cause of basically all of our problems can be summed up in a word. I used the word sin, or let me use the word selfishness. God has said very clearly we can't serve two gods. We can serve Him or we can serve mammon. And unfortunately, an awful lot of us have chosen to make our own gods, whether it is a god of money or whether it is a god of self, on their own happiness. And any person who enters marriage believing that they are in that marriage to make themselves happy is in for trouble.
Yeah.
And most of us look for things to make us happy. And so one of the goals of FAMCO is to convince individuals that marriage it's a covenant relationship. It's 100%, it's 100%. It means that no matter what my wife does, I'm going to love her unconditionally. I'm going to care for her. I'm going to be concerned for her. And she feels the same way towards me. Now, so many couples don't enter marriage with that idea. They enter marriage with the idea that society has today, which is, if it's broken, throw it away.
Yeah.
Don't bother to try to rehabilitate it or fix it or deal with the problems. Let's just throw it away and we'll start over. That's not the answer. That's not God's answer. God's answer is to continue to, as He said, He'll be with us through the valleys as well as the mountaintops. We need to trust God that what He's designed, He's going to make work.
Yeah, and whenever, my personal belief is anything that God designed is meant to do well. It's when human beings, when we insert ourselves into the process and try to take control, it's when we start seeing the disintegration of what really was a beautiful thing. Now, is it FAMCO's, Family and Marriage Coalition, is it FAMCO's position that if a man and a woman have come together and have joined together in marriage, that they are to stick together no matter what?
That's correct. If a couple enters their marriage with the idea that divorce is not an option, they are much better off. And there are times, I will admit, when a couple needs to separate. If they're dealing with abusive situations, I do not advocate that the couple, usually it's the woman who's being abused, I do not advocate she stay in that relationship physically. Now, I'm not advocating divorce because I believe that even in those cases, perhaps when they separate, they can work out the differences, resolve the conflicts, teach whoever's being abusive how to resolve conflicts without being abusive. I mean, so many of our, particularly our young people, Ms. Donna, you see that too, in the schools, all they know about resolving conflict is to beat up the other person.
Right.
And if our husbands and wives, mothers and fathers could role model for their kids the idea that you can resolve conflicts peaceably, you can agree to disagree if that's necessary, you can come up with compromises that both are happy with. If we could just bring that about, then I think you could bring these abusive relationships back together, and there would be no such thing as divorce, let alone separation. Couples would stay together, work out their difficulties together.
And I think if more couples, specifically married couples, understood how everything they do, from how the husband treats the wife, to how the wife treats the husband, to how they deal with conflict, that all of these things, they are modeling behaviors that our children are watching. So if the answer to solving or dealing with their conflict is to storm out of the house and go to the bar and drink with the fellas and or whatever the case may be, or get on the phone and cry to mama, this man is getting on my nerves, then that's what we're teaching our children. And that, in essence, is one way that these unhealthy marriages are breaking down our families.
That's correct. And that's why one of the prime issues we deal with when we're helping couples prepare for marriage and then deal with the problems that come up after marriage is how to communicate together, how to address those conflicts that are going to come up. As we've talked about, we're all different.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. God has created us all as unique individuals with all kinds of different ideas. Some of us like to party. I don't necessarily like to party. I like to stay home and read books.
Okay.
Some people like to party. And so if you've got a couple that's coming together, one likes to party and the other one doesn't, the idea isn't to beat each other up and see who wins. The idea is to talk it through, decide, well, which weekend are we going to party, which weekend are we going to stay home. And you work out all your difficulties that way, and you wind up with a much more enriching marriage and life.
Yeah, and in the society we live in today, material things, all of that kind of stuff is so glamorized. We have more people today who put more emphasis and energy into the wedding and not the marriage. Speak on that.
Oh, absolutely, yes. In fact, I find one of the questions in the survey that we give to couples before they're getting married is, are they stressed out because of the marriage preparations?
Yeah.
And a lot of them are.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, that stress in itself probably introduces some conflict before as well as shortly afterwards.
That's right,
Things
before they
maybe
even get going.
Things maybe aren't going well, or they talk about afterwards, didn't go well, somebody messed up, the flower girl dropped the flowers or
Right.
something, and that causes problems.
Yeah.
But then you got the short honeymoon span, but then you've got the two all of a sudden lapsing back into their way of behavior before they were married,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily good either.
Right.
They've got to learn to work out those difficulties together and then come together as a couple, recognizing you're no longer now making plans for one, you're making plans for two. And if we can learn to work together, communicate together, resolve the conflicts, again, I use the word again, communicate.
Yeah.
The other word I use, a C word, is consequences. As you said, we need to teach our kids there's a consequence for misbehavior.
Right.
If they misbehave in school, they should have already learned at home there's a consequence when you misbehave. A lot of our children are not learning that. We're not modeling that for them.
Right.
It would so help that part of the educational system in the schools if our children would learn at home the appropriate behavior, how to resolve conflict, and in general, just how to get along, how to relate to other people, how to accept them as they are, not criticize and condemn.
Right. Now, obviously, with there being so many marriages breaking up, sometimes even before the 1 year anniversary, there are people coming together who are just unequally yoked. And I know the Bible references that. What resources does FAMCO offer on the front end while a couple is actually dating?
Well, that's an excellent question. Let me answer the first part of your comment,
Okay.
which is I do see some couples coming together who are truly unequally yoked, and by that I'll say they have a different basis for their values. It may be Christian, non-Christian, it may be just totally different values system. And when you've got two individuals trying to make decisions with a very different set of values, to use the extreme, one individual thinks it's okay to lie, and the other one thinks it's not okay, then how do you reconcile that? So that's a challenge.
And also, I want to jump in there. Another huge challenge for couples is when you have an individual comes together who is very fiscally frugal and wants to save or wants to be very careful with spending money, and you have another individual who wants to shop till they drop. That the number one, I think, way for couples to really get into trouble is when you're dealing with finances.
Finances always are a very good indicator of an inability to resolve conflict. In my mind, the finances themselves are never the cause for the problem. The cause for the problem is they haven't learned how to resolve the conflict.
Yes.
So what we do, to answer your question, is we have this survey that we have couples take either before they're married, or we offer it to couples who are married. And what it does is identify where they may be different in a lot of different areas, whether it's finances, whether it's their leisure activities, whether it's friends they have, whether it's their background, their family background. If there are differences, we help them talk through those differences.
And that, listeners, is what we'll talk about next. Prepare and Enrich is a wonderful resource offered by the Family and Marriage Coalition. My husband and I took the first step. You're going to want to hear what our results were. And a little bit later on, we'll meet another couple, a young couple, who benefited from the resources available through FAMCO. My name is Donna Moore Westby. You're inside of Education Matters. We'll be right back.
The Will Lou Gray Opportunity School has been serving the beautiful Midlands of South Carolina since 1921. Our mission has evolved over the years, and we now specialize in helping young people move past their obstacles in order to achieve success. We give students opportunities to lead, to develop social skills, to become active in their communities, and to taste success. Don't settle for less than the absolute best for your life. Contact us today to take the next step in your journey toward success.
I lead a busy life, but I still have to make sure my family eats right. And everybody loves Dawn's Seasoning Delight. I use Dawn's on meats and vegetables. It's healthy, tastes great, and it's simple to use. It's like having a chef in a bottle.
My seasoning is available at Kroger, Bilo, Food Line, Roots, and Harvest. Look for it on display in the meat department. Also visit seasoningdelight.com for information and recipes. Dawn's Seasoning Delight. It's so good.
Does your child or grandchild need help in reading or math, or can benefit from preparatory coursework for the HSAP, ACT, or SAT? If so, contact the Barner Group Educational Associates. Our staff specializes in formatting an individualized approach to assisting your child academically. We offer low-cost tutorial services and educational programs. Participants may qualify for free services. To learn more, call for Alicia Cuthbertson of the Barner Group Educational Associates, 1-888-TBG-3996.
This month, in addition to Thanksgiving, we'll also celebrate our veterans. Veterans Day is November the 11th. On behalf of Education Matters and the entire staff and crew, we say thank you to those of you who risked your lives so that we can enjoy the liberties we enjoy right here in this great country. Make sure you thank a veteran today. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you and have a great day.
Total Women's Healthcare means treating the women physically, emotionally, and everything in between. At Magnolia Medical Women's Center, we treat and diagnose common and unusual medical problems related to female health. Magnolia Medical Center is a premium high-level obstetrics and gynecology clinic for women of all ages. Our clients receive the time they deserve without feeling rushed and unimportant. We are located in the Aiken Medical Center, 410 University Parkway in Aiken, Suite 2300. Call us today at 803-649-6366.
Need positive and constructive after-school activities for your children? Call the Martial Arts Academy in Aiken under the direction of International Olympic trainer Andrew Blocker. The Martial Arts Academy offers an award-winning approach to teaching Taekwondo. It's an effective approach to instilling discipline. The Martial Arts Academy also offers self-defense and fitness classes for all ages. Enroll today in this affordable program by calling 803-642-5723 or visit the studio at 2398 Whiskey Road in Aiken. The Martial Arts Academy, positively changing the lives of youth and adults.
Welcome back inside of Education Matters. My name is Donna Moore Westby, your host of Education Matters, and we're connecting you to the world of education one step at a time. If you're just joining us today inside the broadcast, we're talking with Roger Rollins. He is the Executive Director of the Family and Marriage Coalition of Aiken. And Mr. Rollins, I've really enjoyed the broadcast. We cannot, in my opinion, talk enough about saving our marriages. But there's some things that have to take place even before a couple walks down that aisle. Let's talk about the training that takes place prior to a couple getting married that FAMCO offers, and then impress upon our viewers today why that can be a very valuable thing to do.
Okay. The FAMCO does two things. One's provides enrichment and enhancement and encouragement for couples that are married. But as you said, the other goal, and really the ultimate goal,
and we do have a slide on that, James, our mission for FAMCO.
We're into prevention rather than intervention, and so if you can prevent the problems up front, and that's why we're really encouraging couples who are planning on getting married, maybe older couples, to help couples who are planning on getting married go through a significant amount of preparation, training, and education beforehand. So we provide a tool called Prepare Enrich. It's a nationally known survey tool, and it is strictly that. It is a tool. It is a series of about 150 statements, such as we agree in the way we're spending our money. And the couple would put agree, disagree, or uncertain. And then the computer compiles the information, and you get a report out. And then the couple can use this report to discuss areas where they are significantly different. And what we do for the next probably 5 or 6 sessions in a normal training session, in a normal premarital education preparation session, is to help the couple talk through the results of these issues. If we take communication, for example.
Yeah.
You're familiar with that.
I'm very familiar.
Right. If we take communication, that is probably the foundation for a good or a bad marriage, if you will, is the ability or inability to communicate well. If a couple just plain shuts down when something goes wrong, you're going to have problems. And so what we talk about is, the results show that they communicate very differently. How do we help them work through those differences?
One of the major, I think, indicators in the success of a couple is what they do on the front end of that marriage during the dating phase. You know, as you and I talked about on the radio this morning, that initially there is that infatuation, which we're not quite sure if that's love or not, maybe some lust, but there's that initial phase where you're attracted to someone, and almost like that imagination stage or fairy tale stage, where it doesn't matter what he does or she does, it's okay because we're in love, and then boy, once you walk down that aisle and you're with that person every day, day in and day out, through the good and the bad, that's when the rubber meets the road.
That's correct. Yes, in the dating phase, in the pre-marriage phase, of course, I'm always putting on my best face because I want to please my future spouse, and then of course my future spouse always has rose-colored glasses because they want to believe they made the right choice.
Yeah.
And so between the two of those, them thinking I'm okay and me trying to convince them I'm okay, they may get a very distorted picture.
Yeah.
And so what this survey does is to help them identify some areas where, even though it may look okay now, there may be some conflicts coming up later on. And there's some specific things. One of the examples, there's a pastor here in our town who I talked to him not too long ago, and he does something very similar. He asked a couple to look at their finances, and turns out one of them had been through bankruptcy and the other one hadn't, and they didn't know that. Now that is a significant problem that they're going to have to deal with later. Now that doesn't mean they shouldn't get married, but it means they need to know about that and talk about that up front. So it's those kinds of significant issues, or it's just the daily issues about, well, my parents always used to have at dinner time, they'd be talking around dinner, they'd be joking, they'd be having a good time. Well, my parents, we weren't able to talk at the table at all. We had to be very serious and eat, and we were done.
Yeah.
That in itself is a difference.
And then it could even get to some very, very serious situations like dealing with children, disciplining children, as we already mentioned, finances, those kinds of things that can really make or break a marriage. Now, we've talked about some of the statistics, and we've sort of touched on some reasons why some of our marriages are breaking up. We have a video, and I want to show you this little clip that kind of drives home the point that if we are not investing in our marriages, if we are not taking some steps even before we walk down that aisle to make sure we understand what marriage is all about and we are true to a covenant that we're making, then we could be headed for some very serious problems. Take a look at some startling statistics that has been presented by the Family and Marriage Coalition. James?
I'm reading some data here that just has me astounded. It's data about the financial cost of broken families on our nation. We're talking about a figure of $112 billion. $112 billion every year that taxpayers pay for the cost of broken families in our nation. Listen to this. It affects our justice system, our food stamp programs, Medicaid. All those programs are overwhelmed simply because of broken families that are falling apart every day. Now, the annual cost for South Carolina, for example, is $469 million. $469 million every year from South Carolina alone. It's amazing, and it's something we cannot sustain at this present rate. To break it down locally, the hourly service worker, the cost of business for the divorce of one employee is over $3,700. Family fragmentation affects the health, stability, and the productivity of everybody. So there's an emotional cost, and that's bad enough. I can't measure that. But breaking it down to dollars and cents, it doesn't make sense anymore to have to tolerate and let go of this terrible problem of broken families on our nation. We've got to do something. We must do something.
Well, Mr. Roger, in looking at that clip, it's not only about how broken marriages impacts our families, but it's also dollars and cents. This is making a tremendous impact in our country in terms of dollars. It's costing us money.
Oh, definitely. There was a study done recently that showed how much money each one of the states, and then of course nationally, we spend on problems that occur basically because of the broken family. And it's everything from the assistance we provide to children and to the parent who's trying to raise those children by themselves, to what happens to kids when they're raised in a broken home and wind up with all kinds of need for help, whether it's going to prison or whether it's some kind of help, substance abuse, all of those things. The cost to society is just tremendous.
It is, and when we're talking about a subject like this, it really boils down to education. We have many couples watching today, individuals watching today, where you may have a situation, Mr. Roger, where one of the individuals really wants some help, wants some counseling, but the other does not. How would FAMCO recommend they handle that situation?
Well, it is a difficult situation. We admit that up front. It's not going to be easy, but hopefully there is at least one in that marriage that wants to make it work. And if that one person will demonstrate love and concern and compassion towards the other, we find often that even though that individual may think it's all the other person's fault, they're the one that wants to get out of it, they're the ones that doesn't want to make up. Turns out there are some reasons why the other one's behaving the way they are, and it may be that we're driving them away.
Yeah.
So if we can get both of them to take a look at where they're coming from, the one individual may be so nagging the other one so much, trying to convince the other one they're all wrong. I'm going to fix you because you're the problem. You know, and so somehow,
You haven't heard that before, have you?
only a few times. What I tell people when they come in for help is, look, we aren't about first of all, we're not about fixing your marriage.
Yes.
We're all about enabling you two to communicate with each other and learn how to work through these issues together. Nor are we about fixing your mate.
Yes.
We're about dealing with the situation that you can change, which is you, and
Yes.
only you. We
And
can't change anybody else.
That's right, and that is a very key factor in what you've said. But that's easier said than done, especially when you have two individuals coming together from different backgrounds, raised differently, and they've been the way that they are for 20, 30, 40 years nowadays. And now you expect me to change all of that? Well, let me help you in that change process, and then we get into big trouble.
Well, but it is the fact that even one of them is coming for help is a good sign that says, I recognize something needs to change. And that's almost the first step. If we're going to make improvement, first of all, we need to recognize something's got to change.
That's right.
You know, the old definition of insanity, we keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results.
That's right.
Doesn't happen.
That's right.
So we have to learn that if we want something to change, and this is the answer, it's got to begin with me.
Yes.
It can't begin with my spouse, it's got to begin with me.
Amen to that. As we go to the break, I want to end this particular segment with slide number 2, James. The main goal of FAMCO is prevention rather than intervention. We want to take care of some things up front rather than wait until there is a problem and then it makes it that more difficult. You're inside of Education Matters. We'll be right back.
The Will Lou Gray Opportunity School has been serving the beautiful Midlands of South Carolina since 1921. Our mission has evolved over the years, and we now specialize in helping young people move past their obstacles in order to achieve success. We give students opportunities to lead, to develop social skills, to become active in their communities, and to taste success. Don't settle for less than the absolute best for your life. Contact us today to take the next step in your journey toward success.
I lead a busy life, but I still have to make sure my family eats right. And everybody loves Don's Seasoning Delight. I use Don's on meats and vegetables. It's healthy, tastes great, and it's simple to use. It's like having a chef in a bottle.
My seasoning is available at Kroger, Bilo, Food Line Roots and Harvest. Look for it on display in the meat department. Also visit seasoningdelight.com for information and recipes. Don's Seasoning Delight. It's so good.
Does your child or grandchild need help in reading or math, or can benefit from preparatory coursework for the HSAP, ACT, or SAT? If so, contact the Barner Group Educational Associates. Our staff specializes in formatting an individualized approach to assisting your child academically. We offer low-cost tutorial services and educational programs. Participants may qualify for free services. To learn more, call for Alicia Cuthbertson of the Barner Group Educational Associates, 1-888-TBG-3996.
Total women's health care means treating the women physically, emotionally, and everything in between. At Magnolia Medical Women's Center, we treat and diagnose common and unusual medical problems related to female health. Magnolia Medical Center is a premium high-level obstetrics and gynecology clinic for women of all ages. Our clients receive the time they deserve without feeling rushed and unimportant. We are located in the Aiken Medical Center, 410 University Parkway in Aiken, Suite 2300. Call us today at 803-649-6366.
Need positive and constructive after-school activities for your children? Call the Martial Arts Academy in Aiken under the direction of International Olympic trainer Andrew Blocker. The Martial Arts Academy offers an award-winning approach to teaching Taekwondo. It's an effective approach to instilling discipline. The Martial Arts Academy also offers self-defense and fitness classes for all ages. Enroll today in this affordable program by calling 803-642-5723 or visit the studio at 2398 Whiskey Road in Aiken. The Martial Arts Academy, positively changing the lives of youth and adults.
When it comes to grilling, I'm the man. Using Dawn Seasoning Delight, I'm the grill master.
My seasoning is available at Kroger, Buy Low, Food Line, Reeds, and Harvest. Look for it on display in the meat department. Also visit seasoningdelight.com for information and recipes. Dawn Seasoning Delight. It's so good.
Dawn Seasoning Delight is so good.
If you are interested in becoming an individual or corporate sponsor of Education Matters, or to receive sponsorship information, call Donna Moore Wesby at 803-507-6793, or you can send an email to dwesby@edmat.com.
Welcome back inside of Education Matters. My name is Donna Moore Westby, your host, and we're connecting you to the world of education one step at a time. Yes, education means knowledge. It's not just about academia. It's anything that's going to increase our overall knowledge of information so that we can then take that knowledge and apply it to our lives. And today we're talking about a very serious topic that I believe we can't talk enough about, and that is saving our marriages, what it can do to save our families and our communities. And helping us through the discussion today has been Mr. Roger Rollins, who is the Executive Director of the Family and Marriage Coalition. And joining me, we have a full house in the studio now, and I will introduce everyone. This is my wonderful husband, Mr. Donald Maurice Wesby, and of course we have Mr. Roger Rollins sitting beside Don, and then we have a wonderful newlywed, wet behind the ears couple, Mr. Victor and Rachel. And we're very, very happy to have you with us today as we close out our segment on saving marriages. Now, before we get in talking more specifically about prepare and enrich, Mr. Rollins, I do want to address one topic, and we kind of covered it on the radio broadcast this morning. There are many people watching today who are cohabitating, or also known as shacking, or also known as test driving. What does God say about that?
No.
Oh, just straight out no, huh?
He's got some other terms that he uses to describe that.
Okay.
But let me just say that it's not God's plan, and I say it doesn't work. Now, couples that are cohabiting, that doesn't mean they can't get married. Mm-hmm. But for example, what I would require of a couple if they want to get counseling before marriage and they've been cohabiting, is to separate so that they can talk through these things together as two individuals and not as a couple that's already living together, because right away that introduces a lot of baggage into the relationship. So it is not desirable. It sets a couple up for failure. In fact, the failure rate for couples that marry after cohabiting is about 75%.
That's right.
And that's a good rate for them. Usually they just don't make it because they've developed a lot of bad habits up front. And so the answer is don't do it. A lot of them do. Some pastors decide they're not going to marry that couple. That's just the way it is. Most pastors will marry them, but you have to recognize that there are going to be some consequences, and they got to deal with those consequences. And so we help them work through those consequences up front.
Yeah. Before I forget, Mr. Roger, let's go ahead and give the contact information for the Family and Marriage Coalition in case there's someone desperately needing some assistance right now.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways to get to us. First of all, we have a website. It's www.aikenfamco.com.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Aikenfamco, all one word, Aikenfamco, F-A-M-C-O, .com, you'll find my name, phone number, a lot of information on the website. And then the phone number that you can reach us at is 803-640-4689.
And let me say, viewers, I've made it easy for you. If you go to my website, and that is www.edmat.com, we've already placed in this week's resources the FAMCO website. So we've made it pretty easy for you. Now, all of us sitting here today, Mr. Roger, I feel like calling you Dr. Phil or something like that. We have you're much more handsome, and you have more hair, right? But we have gone through, at least my husband and I went through the survey phase, but our young couple here actually, and I'm very proud of you for doing this, went through some counseling beforehand. I want to hear from you all. First of all, how long have you been married?
We've been married like...
This is the first test!
Yeah. We got married October the 8th. Couple weeks ago.
Okay.
It's almost a month.
Yeah.
Oh, almost a month. They got a lot to learn, don't they?
Yeah.
They're still sitting really close. Oh, so tell us about your experience with FAMCO. We'll start with you, Ms. Rachel.
It was enlightening. It's something that at first, I knew we needed to do it, but I didn't know it was going to be to like the full benefit of what I never imagined.
Yeah.
So my mom introduced Mr. Rollins to us, and from there it was kind of like every day after we went, I just was looking forward to the next time we went, because it's something like you learn things about that other person that you never knew before, and you get down to the things that you never would bring up before.
Yeah. Now, I can, as a woman, I can see us as women really taking a hold of this and seeing how it could be valuable. But sometimes men are a little tough, especially when it comes to bringing someone else. Bringing someone else into our business,
right,
and learning about. And men kind of have a tough time with that. Mr. Victor, how did you handle that?
At the beginning, it was kind of like, not weird, but, and then, like she said, like, we went the first time, and it was not weird, but it got better and better. And the more we go, it was getting better.
That's good. Now, in going through that process, were there some things that you learned about yourself that you didn't realize beforehand?
Yes, ma'am. There was a lot of stuff that I learned.
Do you believe, what kinds of tips did you learn early on during this process that you believe will help keep your marriage together? We'll come back to Ms. Rachel.
The number one key that Mr. Rollins always kept pushing was communication, and it was always bringing back God as, the center. And it's something that I always wanted, but it was harder when you have two people and they're different mindset, and God made them different, and you're thinking, why don't you think like me?
That's what I ask my husband all the time. I'm still working on it.
Yes, dear.
There you go, honey. See, it works.
And it was just, I've heard a lot of people say, and my mom always told me, people go to school to learn a trade, but people don't learn the most important thing, and it's having tools to work through your marriage. And it is important.
Sure. That's a good way to put it. And I think if more people really understood going into it how serious this commitment is, that they would take more time on the front end, as I've said, learning the key. My husband would always tell me is if you learn yourself, then you, and get to know yourself, you'll get to know me. See, I listen.
And that was good. Good. Continue to listen and learn.
There you go.
Well, honey, tell us about your thought as we went through the process. And I will say we have our report out on our Prepare and Enrich survey. Each of us went on our own computer and answered the questions, and that was good.
Let me add one thing first. That one of the things that Rachel and Victor did that you didn't by design was that we have a lot of homework, a lot of things that we can work through that help them talk about, whether it's the finances, we talk about budgeting, or whether it's communication. We actually go through conflict resolution process. So those are homework items that I haven't assigned to you guys yet. But
Okay, so we got some homework to do.
I thought because we were a vitalized couple that we.
That's why I chose not to be too hard.
Okay.
Go ahead, Donna. What did you think of it?
Think of the process. I thought it was a very good process of the questions and the answers. I wanted to be honest. It kind of just, I'm trying to find a word to say, to just let me know and let us know that we were on the right track. I would say this, that without going through this, just being with that God was first in our lives, I know it was mine and hers, that I wanted to go, I took marriage as serious, and I wanted to be the best husband and best father that I could be. So without putting a piece of paper in front of her, I would ask her questions that was important to me. It was like,
you know what he called it? He called it dropping crumbs.
I said, let me feed her some information. And I'm listening at her answers to, you know, how's you spending? It didn't come out quite that way. What about kids? What do you want? And, you know, what's important to you? How different role questions I'm asking that, because I knew the type of woman that would be good for me. So I just wanted to check to see was we comparable in that way. And I knew I need to be committed, you know, and I knew that, you know, just from the talks and you know, God just kind of led her to me, you know, and I just wanted, me being hard-headed, I think she would say that.
It's in black and white, stubborn.
I just wanted to make sure, but this process was, it was a great process, and I think it's very helpful. Again, to just enhance what we were working on, is this is just kind of take it to some deeper nuts and bolts of it. So I really enjoyed it.
It was good. Actually, for us, Mr. Roger, it opened the door for us to have some really healthy conversations even after you left and giving us our debriefing. Will this process work for any and everybody?
Any and everybody. Yes, it's designed for any and everybody. You have to enter it with the idea that you do want to learn something, and you're willing to change if that's necessary. If the only reason you're entering this process is to figure out what's wrong with your mate and how they can be fixed, you may have a problem.
Might have a little problem. Victor, what advice would you offer to our young men and our older men watching today, whether they're dating or actually in their marriage, to encourage them to participate in this process?
The other thing is about this, that they need to like give it a try, and that would change their lives and with their girlfriend, fiance, or wife still, you know. So I would recommend it. It helped me a lot. So
now, are you all still going through the counseling with FAMCO?
We are not right now, but we want to at least go once a month. So we're gonna talk to Mr. Rollins.
Okay, is that the way the process is designed to work? That you continue on with couples?
Ideally, yes. In fact, a lot of larger churches, for example, have premarital training classes, but then they require the couples that have been married to take a class for a year or so for newly married couples. Now, what we do, we provide mentoring on a monthly basis. We have classes that people can attend hopefully they'll be able to come in the near future, and you guys are welcome to come as well. But in these mentoring classes, we teach people, first of all, how to deal with the issues as they come up. One time we spent a whole time talking about the impact of the family of origin. Okay, so we talk about that. And these are a monthly basis, different topics. We invite people who are interested in being mentored or mentoring other couples to attend these classes.
Now, we've kind of touched on a little bit, but I really want to drive this point home and why it is imperative for us to have healthy marriages, the impacts to our children, the impacts to our communities. What data can you share with us to help drive that point home?
Well, there are a number of studies that have been conducted, but let me just cite one. This is from the Center for Marriage and Families. It's a national organization called Family Structure and Children's Educational Outcomes. And it says, first of all, a comprehensive review of recent academic research shows that family structure, whether a child's parents are married, divorced, single, remarried, or cohabiting, is a significant influence on children's educational performance. And this means from the very beginning, from the preschool, young children in single-parent families are less healthy overall than children in other family types. Elementary education, high school, young people from non-intact families are significantly more likely to drop out of school compared to students living in intact families. College attendance, misbehavior at school, marital breakup is associated with a higher incident of antisocial behavior in the classroom for boys, and it goes on.
Yes.
The impact on our young people, certainly on the married couple. The impact on the married couple is tremendous. Couple get divorces thinking that will end their problems. It just makes it much worse because you're really not fixing anything. You're backing away. But the impact on the children will last all their lives. They've done surveys on couples who have come out of divorced or broken families, and the impact is this doesn't go away.
Well, and the message here is we truly believe that the vitality of our marriages is a direct correlation to the kind of world we live in. If we spend the time and the energy to invest in one another and getting to know one another and understanding each other and understanding the role of the wife and the husband, and then of course it even magnifies when you bring children into the world. If we truly take that seriously and are willing to do whatever it takes to strengthen that bond, then we'll see crime decrease, we'll see juvenile delinquency decrease, we'll see the cost that taxpayers are having to pay for some of these problems. All of that will just go away or definitely diminish. Now let me ask our newly married couple, and I'm very excited for you. We've been married 13 years and we love it. A key, I think, element for us is that the way he and I are right now, today, this is how we were when we dated. We, of course, we've grown together and gotten stronger as individuals, thereby as a couple, but our sense of humor, just our thoughts on life, they were pretty much the same. For you as a young couple, do you believe that there was enough preparation to help you understand really what you were getting into when we talk about marriage prior to FAMCO? Do you think this world did a good enough job in helping people understand the covenant of marriage?
Not so. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of hard. Like in my environment, I did. I was thankful enough that I did get a lot of that. But it is an everyday process that you have to involve yourself in and be a part of.
Right. Well, that's good because I think you're helping us make the point that whatever is being taught in that home and reinforced in that home becomes the values and the belief systems of our children. And that's why when we are able to save marriages, we're able to save families and save communities. So that's awesome. Mr. Roger, any thing else that we need to cover or mention in the last few moments that we have from you as the director of FAMCO?
Well, let me just encourage couples who are thinking about getting married to go through some kind of premarital education and training. There's just so much evidence. One big church up in the Washington, D.C. area has been doing this, and there's another one down in Texas. Both of them good-sized churches that have, over about a 10-year period, 300 couples plus were married, and the divorce rate was about 5%, as opposed to the average divorce rate of about 50%. So the ability of premarital training to prevent divorces and problems later is just tremendous. It's just, I can't emphasize that enough. And then, once they're married, you're going to have problems, because we all have differences. You know, the honeymoon is soon over, and you soon begin to realize you married somebody else who's probably got some faults just like you do, or maybe different faults. And that causes problems. Now, you can either hide those problems, you can pretend like they're going to go away, you can hit each other over the head and see who wins, or you can learn how to work through those difficulties. So couples need to recognize that there is benefit of coming forward and saying, hey, I need help. We're reluctant to admit that we need help. We're reluctant to go to the pastor or go to a trusted friend and say, hey, I'm having problems, can you help me? But if we would do that more often, if we would stand up and say, hey, I'm dealing with a difficulty, if it's a financial problem, or if it's somehow we just aren't communicating, go to somebody you trust. Don't go to somebody who's going to say, well, the only answer is separation or divorce. Go to somebody who's going to help you stay together and work through the issue. So if we are willing to recognize we can have problems, it's okay to have problems, but you need to learn to work through those problems and identify those problems and get some help to solve them.
James, let's show our last two slides, because I do want our viewers again to take a hold of what we're saying today. Prevention is better than intervention. However, FAMCO is available to assist if you are currently having problems. Don't wait till it's too late. Don't wait till the two of you are ready to kill one another and then try to seek out help. And then our very last slide. This again is the contact information for the Family and Marriage Coalition of Aiken. Let's put in the time and energy we need to do in our marriages, certainly early on if you're dating, so that we can have happy families, and healthy communities. Now, my last question is going to be to my husband. You're going to keep me?
I plan to. Kendra, don't want to take a news. I just want to add that, you know, so many times you hear that people don't, the negative side of it, you know, oh, if I ever get rid of this one, I'll never marry again. But, you know, I really, if something happened, I'll be trying my best to find this relationship again. So marriage can be beautiful, but one thing that Mr. Rogers said earlier was selfish. Too many people are selfish, and they're seeking the individual goals and stuff and don't realize that, look, it's 2 now or 3 or whatever. And the fallout from that could be very devastating. So.
And we do not want devastation, all right? This is something we can do about, that we can do something about. Mr. Roger Rollins from FAMCO, thank you for being here today. Don, thank you for being here today. Victor and Rachel, we wish you much success. You're already going down the right road, and it is our prayer that God will continue to just grow and strengthen your bond. All right. Thank you again for joining us inside of Education Matters. Join us next time. Make sure you go to that website, edmat.com, and use that word of the week. My name is Donna Moore Westby, your host. Education Matters. Take care.
If you are interested in becoming an individual or corporate sponsor of Education Matters, or to receive sponsorship information, call Donna Moore Westby at
507-6793, or you can send an email to dwesby@edmat.com.